So in an operating system there are four main what are called system managers, so peripherals, memory, file and process. And peripherals, that kind of looks after any input or output device. So that could be a monitor, could be a printer, could be a microphone, a camera, could be a hard drive. And the devices communicate with the computer through something called drivers. And drivers are kind of a bit like a translator. So they translate what the input or output device is saying, and they translate it to something the computer can understand. So that's what a peripheral manager does. It communicates with the drivers and with any input or output device plugged into the computer. The memory manager is responsible for allocating space on RAM for different programs that are used. As you probably appreciate, some programs are quite large and complex and will need quite a lot of RAM allocated to them. Others are quite small, so won't need so much. Also, if there is sort of too much for the RAM to handle, the memory manager is responsible for kind of allocating the virtual memory. So in other words, virtual memory is where portions of the RAM are taken out and put onto the hard drive and then swapped back in at a later stage, so the program can kind of operate reasonably smoothly. So the memory manager basically looks after the RAM and just checks there's enough space there for each of the program's requests for RAM. We can actually see this a little bit if we enlarge this here. Oops. And here's a task manager in a Windows machine, and we can just see here the memory usage. So we can see in this particular case, we can see how much RAM is being used, so sort of 1.6 gig at the moment, and you can see there's a bit more space, sort of empty RAM that could be used if the computer needed it to be. So next down here we have the file manager, and the file manager is responsible for looking after all of the files on the computer. So it kind of looks at text files, graphics files, program files, all kinds of different files, and it will set permissions for different people to have access to those files. So you might be able to see just down here in this picture, we've got the owner of the file listed and then different permissions, so read and write permissions for those individual files. So the file manager just controls and looks after all of the different files on the computer. And then finally we've got the process manager down here, and it's kind of the process manager's job to look after the CPU and allocate kind of resources in the CPU so different programs can run at the same time. And a bit like the RAM, you know, different programs will need different amounts of CPU allocation. And what this does is it makes sure each of the programs, when they request use of the CPU, has got enough of the CPU to run the program. So if we have another look at the process manager here, the task manager for Windows, we can see the CPU usage is at 8%, so a fairly low amount of CPU being used at the moment. So on this particular computer we could open up some more programs and it would run quite happily. You can kind of dive into these different tabs to look at actually what is using the CPU and how much each program is using if you wanted to. But essentially they are the kind of four main managers in an operating system, so peripheral, memory, file manager and process manager.